Ring the bell for notifications. Yeah.
Ring, ring.
Banana phone. Recently,
Ring.
some guy, Gary Conway, even his fucking Twitter name is quite paused AF, I suppose as the squiddos say these days.
Even his regular real name is paused AF.
Yeah,
Gar-
yeah,
Gary Conway,
Gary
what a
Conway.
fucking douche.
And it's Gary spelled Gerry. That's like when
Ew.
somebody's named Jeff, but it's spelled Goef. It's just, ugh. But
Just ugh.
his Twitter name
Ugh.
is Gary Conway. Got the shots and lived. Yeah, for now.
He even fucking put in his Twitter handle that he got injected with the poison.
He got injected with the mind control suicide murder pills, ground up into the vaccine, along with microchips to brainwash you, which is for sure not good. I don't approve of that behavior. That's for sure bad.
The cattle are branding themselves. He is the cattle branding itself.
A certain particular variety of cattle that has very dark
Dark
fur,
dark cattle.
not bright, not very pale in fur color or patternings. Anyways, his Twitter bio also says co-creator of The Punisher, Arya Firestorm.
Let me guess, that
Fire.
means he had almost nothing to do with the Punisher.
Yeah, who knows?
Judging by everything else he says, it really sounds like he had nothing to do with the Punisher and, in fact, fought against having the Punisher made.
He did well. I'm sure, like, if he was co-creator of the Punisher, that means he made the Punisher when the Punisher was a villain instead of the totally based AF Punisher that came later, where he was a cool, nice
The
person.
actually interesting, good
Yeah,
Punisher.
you're not Garth Ennis? Okay, never mind. I mean, he could have just straight up created the Punisher from the very beginning. For all I know, I don't really care. This cape shit thing doesn't really matter, and that's kind of the topic we're getting into. But his bio says creator of the Punisher, Sturm, Power Girl, Vixen, and Miss Marvel, writer and producer, but passionate libtard.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, never heard of you. Next. Anyways, what he said recently that got him quite a nice ratio. It was like 4 days ago, in fact, May 11th. Says American comic book artists are taken deservedly to task regularly for outrageously sexist treatment of women. Are they killing women? They're just going up and stabbing women for being women. Is that really sexist? I don't know.
Hopefully.
But he says, but rarely do I see any commentary on the rampant sexism and misogyny of manga, and manga's incredibly popular with young readers. That kind of answers itself. It's like, and that's
Almost,
we
yeah, it's a self fulfilling prophecy. It's almost like misogynies
yes,
is actually a good thing.
but
He just admitted it. Why'd he do that?
yeah, why'd you just whoopsie made a pretty big fucking whoopsie there, but this
Whoopsie
leads
whoopsie.
back. It's been bringing up the topic of American comics versus manga that we basically did the first video on the in the history of the entire internet, maybe, but it was a few years ago. I remember we did videos comparing the sales of mangers to Cape Shit, and I mean, it wasn't even close. It was fucking completely off the charts. The sales of manga just in Japan are in the millions. The sales of American comics in America are in the tens of thousands. The top one, like, just hits 100,000. And the top ones are not great either necessarily. I think it's usually Walking Dead, Saga, or it was like a year ago or two, and then usually like a Batman comic, a Superman comic. The completely mainstay average
Yeah,
being made
the
just to
roach
own
stock
the
shit.
copyright kind of shit.
The stuff that people buy without even reading,
Yeah,
which
people.
is
Yeah, People
It's
buy
like
it
the
like it's a
shame
fucking.
of the industry.
It's like a collectible stamp. You don't buy it to actually appreciate it or observe it. You buy it to put it into a collection and shelve it away, and that's pretty much
Stuff
it.
it into a fucking scrapbook,
And
like
again,
you're
it's
some
like
kind of grandma.
it's been established that most of those sales, like say Superman, sells 100,000 issues. That's not actually people buying it. That's the stores stocking it. That's what the sales are. So actual people buying it might be half of that, and always has been,
Or
since
less.
the beginning of stores for comic books, the direct market as they call it. But the a lot of people have been basically in an interesting way repeating our talking points from years ago, even before our videos on the old original blog. Almost 10 years ago now. I don't remember when I know we made posts. Whenever we would even talk about print comics, though, it was like, in compared to the Japanese comics, there was, that a difference of multiple millions of sales. And those are actual sales, most likely. Those aren't just stores stocking it in Japan. Whereas in America, it's measured by, this very specific metric of the store buys 20 issues. That counts as 20 sales, even if people don't buy a single issue. That Mark Kern guy, the guy who worked on horrific, awful Vanilla WoW classic, the one that ruined people's lives and had children starving to death over. It was kind of a segregation game, though. It segregated the really intolerable nerds from the rest of society. So I do appreciate Vanilla WoW, at least. But I don't appreciate having to get a mount at level 40. That was
The cancer ward of video games.
yes, it's a cancer ward where you give yourself the cancer. It's very very interesting.
You voluntarily get cancer.
Yeah. Anyways, but he made a post about it saying if you follow comics, some comic creators, the Gary Conway guy, are upset that manga is outselling traditional Western comics. Because Gary Conway, I'm sure, had a lot of other people on the left agreeing with him and saying, "Yeah, dude, it's terrible that
They'll fucking
manga
agree.
is so misogynist."
They'll agree with anything that they tell each other.
We
Like,
did.
fucking. You get a lot of liberals who are just like, "Oh, pedophilia should just be decriminalized," and it's like, why?
It's just a sexual preference. It's a sexuality. We need to be
Why?
more open
And you
and
ask
inclusive to different.
you ask them to
sexualities.
justify that, and then they just get angry at you and call you fucking. They call you a homophobe, and it's like, oh,
A super gay phobe. Fucking, isn't that bad? But yeah, the thing is that I remember we did several videos about this years ago about not just the difference in sales, but specifically why. And they're such old videos that they are still on our BitChute, but our YouTube video got false flagged by a lot of people. In fact, here's my reply to Grums here, Mark Kern. He says, if you follow comics, some comic creators are upset that manga is outselling traditional Western comics. Unfortunately, backlash is manga is bad and should be made less problematic. And he says, why? So people stop buying it like they stop buying your stuff. And so I replied to that saying, it'll never not be weird knowing me and my brother did the internet's first video about manga versus American comics, and that I can't link to it because our channel got false flagged by the very people who are now repeating our exact talking points about it. And Tim Lim actually replied saying, shoulda listened to SWC, which is a very common theme among the human existence lately. But also, yeah, we did videos,
the
and I went and dug them
awakened
up on the
human.
BitChute, of course. And some of them are so old, it's like, wow, who's talking? Which of us is talking? And it's like the microphone's completely different, and I'm talking slower, and like in a different tone. It's like, wow, this is old. But the thing is that it was not just that American comics were selling so much less than manga, because that was old news even then, even when we did the first videos about it.
I mean, hell, before manga even started getting sold in America, American comics have been fucking just
Yeah,
dying on the vine.
like even since the 90s and the fucking 2000s, which that's another thing is that Grums said this on Twitter, and like I pointed out, a lot of the people who are like, yeah, man, manga is selling so much, a lot of them
Man,
don't know the reason. There's a bunch of like,
there are a
here's,
whole bunch of. I checked that thread, and it was like 100 times out of 100, everyone who replied saying that it was true was like, yeah, it's because SJW taking over
yeah,
the
none of
big
them have any
two.
clue. They have no clue. All of them are disagreeing with each other or giving different reasons or reasons that don't fucking make sense. Like one of the top replies is Nerd Wonder, who, again, was fucking completely like a complete piss drinker, a female piss drinker. She's really into that stuff, I guess. With Liam Gray, she was friends with Liam Gray, who was the person who false flagged our channel off of YouTube and got all of those videos of
I mean, he's
us
also a
talking about
scammer.
this topic completely wiped off of YouTube forever. She's
On
not only
top of
part of that, she's
scamming his own
complicit in it.
customers. That's also fucking. That's also. Forget about anything involving us. He's scammer. He's a scammer.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah. On
scammer
top
and
of that, yeah,
pro doxing.
yeah,
These people support doxing when they support people who dox.
yeah, and that's the thing is that all these people were friends with each other until it backfired. So all these people were friends with each other, especially against us. But you take us out of the equation, they've committed scams, they've ripped people off. They're in general just grifters who most of them are just saying this for attention after, you know, again, years after it's been established. In fact, I remember we said some of this stuff. I said some of this to directly to Ethan Van Sciver, that manga was just eating the lunch of American comics because, you know, for so many reasons, including the ones Gary Conway here points out, is that the
The
rampant
perfect
sexism and
explanations.
misogyny of manga.
It's the perfect explanation for why.
Yes, he says, I rarely see any commentary on the rampant sexism and misogyny of manga, and manga is incredibly popular with the younger readers. That's not a coincidence, by the way. It's actually the reason.
It's
Because,
kind of like why nobody talks about feminism anymore.
yeah,
There's a person who's like, "What happened to feminism? Feminism used to be the big thing, and now no one's talking about it." It's like it's because you first off because you lost the argument so damn hard
yeah,
that you made yourself look like the biggest joke to ever exist. That's just for starters. But secondly, it's like, do you really want to go back and do this again?
yeah, you want to do this again. You remember how it turned out the last time, and in fact turned into a bunch of infighting. It turned into TERFs versus trans versus fucking whoever else
Which
versus the
that's still waiting.
intersectionality.
That is still waiting to happen. That hasn't gone away. That hasn't been solved. It's waiting to pop up all over again.
There hasn't been a conclusive solution to that yet. Not quite yet.
Fucking final conclusion to solve that.
But anyways, yeah, there's like several replies who are like, "Oh, manga does this right," and somebody else says that it's because manga is, you know, creator owned and run by the same person. But the thing is, they're saying that's why manga is more popular, and that's not true. It is a good point, but it's not true. It's not why manga is more popular. It's why manga tends to be better, and manga is more popular usually because it's better, but also more importantly because of the rampant sexism and misogyny, mainly because you on the left made misogyny cool. You made it the better choice. Misogyny is officially cool because of the left, and
Kind of
that's,
like Nazis and the KKK and racism and
yeah,
all that other shit.
you made it edgy and wrong. And when you do that, the younger readers are going to be like, "Oh, that edgy wrong thing, that sounds fun. That sounds fun to either pretend to uphold or when you pretend to be about it and you see people having a fucking like meltdown, conniption, crying, pissing their panties fit, you kind of adopt it as your real stance, and then eventually you start, sometimes conditionally, you start finding actual legitimate justifications and arguments that prove why misogyny might be a good thing, or in some way why you should have the attitude that your female should be your property, or whatever.
You should be seeking it out at that point.
Yeah, and whether it's right or wrong, you'll you will expose, but basically you'll be chasing children in the opposite direction to expose them to these ideas that they'll might actually find that they like and have some justification for. And once you've done that, you've essentially not only created more of your opposition, but you've validated and justified them. The same way the left is justifying and validating whoever they call Nazis. People are like, oh, I'm a Nazi now, then I guess the Nazis are pretty cool. I'm cool, and they're calling me a Nazi. That makes me cool. And that makes Nazis cool. That's the justification that a lot of people are just writing themselves into now.
I never thought I'd see that happen.
Yeah, certainly not in my
It
lifetime.
seemed like it would be possible, but it happened. Then again, it's with Nazis in particular, it's kind of always been going like that. I tried to find the fucking whatever it was, the picture that I know I've seen of fucking David Bowie doing almost the Roman salute.
There's the Thin White Duke era that was, I think, very short lived, and he was doing it as like a weird fashion. But he was doing it as a weird fashion because it was offensive, and people would it was shocking. And David Bowie, it was like David Bowie in the 70s. He's like, what's crazy stuff that I can do? And what if I just do a Nazi salute from my car, like I'm a fucking some kind of dictator or something? And
of course, people got angry.
Yeah,
but they also had to give it a pass.
The point. It proved the point of that, and he clearly didn't mean it. He was just kind of goofing around, but the photographers are taking a picture of like every fucking heartbeat he had at that point. It's part of the celebrity obsession in a way, which has gotten
which I also didn't invent.
Anyways, like here somebody says the biggest problem with Western comics is the multiple authors. On one year, you'll have a story where a character acts a certain way, and the next he acts completely different. Add in the crossovers and reboots, and it gets way too complex and annoying to keep up with. That's a good point. It's also old news, but it's old news that's true is still true, at least. Another guy says manga is outselling Western comics because Western comics refuse to accept that injecting politics in superhero comics doesn't work. This is part of the narrative now. This is something that they heard from a YouTuber.
It's desperate flailing cope at this point.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
My
the whole
wonderful
injecting
favorite
politics argument
Captain
doesn't
America.
Matter.
I love Captain America, but they're injecting all the leftist politics, and now nobody wants to read about my boy Steve Rogers. My boy Steve Rogers. Mm-hmm. That's what everyone wants to read. No, nobody gives a shit about fucking Captain America. Nobody cares about the comics. They barely care about the movies.
He's been a brand. He's been basically an empty brand for decades now. It's before the 90s, before the 80s even. And the attempts to make him relevant are kind of limited because you can't really make him a human being, which is one of the weaknesses of the comics, but also one of the strengths of the movies is that they just turned him into a human being. They gave him human stuff, and they don't have him like beating people over the head with the American flag. He's more like just soldier action man.
They don't have him breaking the arms of fucking Mexican people backwards twice in the same place.
Shattered the fucking bone in 8 places. That way he will surely die of shock. Again, here's another fucking thing saying, this is probably going to piss off a lot of people, but piracy's good. Good litmus test? I think he means litmus. I don't know. For market interest in a product.
Clearly does. Clearly meant that.
Which is, in a way, a good point. Here's Crew saying, I bet you anything those saying manga is bad can't draw half as good as the average manga. Well, fucking, most of them can't draw, but they
Well,
can't even,
we've
like,
seen the average cape shit, the
yeah.
average cape shit fan. If they're any good at art, first off, they don't draw the typical cape
Hmm.
shit style.
Someone else saying, I'm mostly reading manga and webtoons, webcomics of late, and no offense to the beautiful people working on comics, but I see nothing worthy of notice to read for me in Western comic industry, which again
Nobody
is
does.
pretty average.
Nobody does. We're not talking about French or otherwise
It's old
European
news also, but
comics.
it's also like a good example of the overall attitude of people in America when it comes to comics is that there's nothing really interesting from America. It's just the same tired brands, but at the same time they also don't understand like even indie comics aren't a refuge from that, as we've already proven and gone over in many videos in the past, but we've
You know,
also
there's no
gone
need
over
to do
why
that again.
manga is better, not
But
just how but why specifically, for many reasons in many videos in the past, which of course are now gone from our YouTube channel, gone from YouTube entirely. Like YouTube told me they can't even bring back the channel because it's completely erased from their fucking their data banks.
so as far as I'm concerned, we're justified forever in just repeating it, just bringing it up again and again.
Well,
We'll do that.
going into it is a waste of time though, because we can do that a million times and make this video like 20 hours long, restating what we've already said in previous videos. Everyone else who hasn't seen those videos, you're parroting us at this point, and that's not our supposition.
Parroting at best, because
Yeah.
most of the time it doesn't even reach that height.
Here's another
It doesn't
person.
even reach the height of being derivative of us.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, I've noticed that a lot of people parroting us. Like here's one in particular who says a selling point of manga is that it typically has one author and eventually ends. You get into superheroes, it's like I love this character, but only when this person writes and draws it. Blah blah. It's a good point, but it's not a selling point. That's not why manga sells more. Um, it sells more because the stories and writing are tend to be better, and then because of that, it's because it usually just has the one author. People don't buy manga because it has one author. They buy it because it's more interesting or has a more interesting story, and it has a more interesting story because of the. So it's not like this guy's completely wrong. I'm not saying that, but it's also again that's an old point that we did videos about years ago. In fact, I noticed we did videos about that, and then I started seeing other people after that doing videos about it. So I was able to. It was weird. I was able to line it up by the dates. Like I remember, I think 2018, we did a video about like comparing the sales of manga to the sales of American comics and cape shit. Like, because it was funny. I remember a video back when I used to watch Yakuck Zach, when he was diversity in comics. He would do like, oh, look at the Comic Cron sales figures for this month for American comics, and it was like this many and this money. And I remember there's the guy who does weekly manga recap, or it was on he was on channel also awesome, and he had a series called Read Right to Left. It was about manga, and he did a few videos about like Bleach, and I remember he went over the Bleach sales figures and showed like a precipitous drop from like 11 million to only 7 million, and it's like holy shit, only 7 million is a huge drop. It was a huge drop off and showed that the fans were tuning out of Bleach, and that's still like 7 fucking thousand times more than the average American
That's
comic.
that's every top selling American comic
Yeah, that's every
combined.
top selling American comic
Combined.
over an entire year combined. It's fucking bizarre, but it's also bizarre how you didn't see a lot of people, especially back then, because um, in 2018, most of the the cope shit of American cape shit was mostly based on how, Marvel is the health of the industry and other false narratives and sheer idiocy, and we need to emulate Ray Kroc of McDonald's, and fucking we need to be hot dog vendors and give the customers what they want, but if a customer says something we don't like, we won't give it to them, and just this sheer fucking idiocy.
We need to give the customers what they want, unless it's something that I, as a fucking creator, don't feel like doing. I don't feel like making
Yeah,
a
but
digital copy.
their feelings.
I'd rather waste 3 times the production budget to print this
Yeah,
comic. It's
based
like, huh?
entirely on their feelings. Like, I feel like digital comics are bad, therefore, no, you can't have a digital comic if you ask for it, because I feel that nobody likes them, even though you just asked me for one. It was just sheer fucking retardation. And that was the Comicsgate side. That was diversity in comics. That was people who like diversity in comics. That's people who make excuses
Going
for
back to the
diversity in comics.
beginning too. That was the core, the start
Yeah.
of their entire fucking thing.
So we did a
Going
video. We
all the
did
way
videos
back.
about that from the beginning, from like 2018. We did a bunch of videos pointing that out, which is actually how we got a lot of other people, including Ethan Van Sciver, to be regular followers of our channel, to the point where they were in private making references to our videos, like weird secret references, like the whole yellow umbrella thing that apparently pissed off some of Ethan's simps behind closed doors, which they only admitted to recently. I thought that was very funny and strange. But I also remember we did that video about American comics versus manga sales. And I think it was a month or two or maybe three later that just some guy did like the exact same video. But it was only afterwards, because I was
Well, not the
subscribed to
exact
him
same
too, and I
video.
thought that's weird that he just did a video saying like the exact same thing we did,
Well, the exact same thing, but
but
not
not
as
as well,
good,
of course, because
not
it
as
was
well
there's a
put.
lot of this self-confused, like, oh, the manga's selling more because it doesn't have politics in it. And it's like, that's not true, though. Manga has a lot of politics. It has a lot of political views on it. But there's,
Even
again,
leftist political views,
a
not
lot of,
even like a
yes,
counterpoint.
like Hideo Kojima puts tons of leftist political views into all of his games, going back all the way to the very beginning. Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are overrun with overtly leftist politics. The thing is that a video game can just be fun on its own. You can always skip the dumb story. But here's
In
Raging
fact,
Golden
that's the
Eagle,
thing is,
another guy who supported us being false flagged and was actually directly complicit. Raging Golden Eagle is directly complicit in false flagging our channel. And here's him parroting us, trying to be like, oh, he says, they know they can't compete, so all they can do is bring the competition down to their level. It's like, yeah, you're just repeating what we said years earlier. The same way Just Some Guy did, and Just Some Guy also is pretty much complicit in because if you funded Cyberfrog, you're complicit. You support the side that does like gay ops and false
yeah, you
flagging and
have no
shit
excuse for
through
that shit
action.
anymore. You know what he's guilty of
Yeah,
because we got the word out.
and so there's a lot of well, this way and that way, and this is why, and so a lot of people don't really understand. The thing is, we understand better than them, and we've already done the videos explaining how specifically and why mangas. But even this, like just this pointing out what Gary Conway says, there's rampant sexism and misogyny in manga. That's a reason right there. That's legitimately a reason, and also the Overton window. But saying you tell kids who are reading manga and having fun, like having the id satisfied with big tit decapitations, but also like setups and payoffs. And even manga isn't perfect from that. We were just seeing this is something I really want to bring up, but Attack on Titan, I think ended recently. The manga or I don't know. I haven't been keeping up, and I haven't even been reading about what was saying on our Discord. But apparently, Attack on Titan had some big wrap up that was so fucking disappointing. People are pissed off, and it had some kind of follow-up ending or retcons ending or retcons of retcons and all this shit. And I don't read the comics, so I haven't kept up. I never really thought it was that good.
I skimmed the show. I fucking I didn't. It was on Netflix.
mm,
I fucking watched a fucking probably about one episode worth out of the entire first season.
I skimmed the manga and it was like, yeah, this it was okay, but it wasn't it didn't really fucking pull me in.
Honestly, a lot of the fucking stuff was dull.
Yeah, I
There's a whole
thought it
bunch of
didn't.
dull shit.
It set up like mystery and threats and shit, but clearly, like when Titans are teleporting in and fucking, oh no, the wall's not big enough or whatever the fuck, and some Titans are bigger than others and they have the 3D MG, like the fucking person who finds a talking dog is like, wow, a dog that can talk, and it
It's a
says
talking horse.
yeah, or it says 3D MG is actually a good idea. And it's like, oh no, it's retarded. But yeah, like you see, even manga doesn't have like that's written by one person doing what they want. Gantz had a shitty ending too. It had such a weird thud of an ending for a comic
But
that I
at
really
least,
liked because it was full of naked hot girls with giant tits getting ripped in half like fresh bread. Um, that's great.
allowing violence against women,
Yes,
which I thought was illegal in America to just even portray. You
to
can't
even
do that in
portray it.
America. You
Well,
can't even
it's not
show that.
illegal, but you'll get canceled. Oh no, look out for canceled. But but the thing is,
Look out, your show will get canceled. I'm not a fucking TV show.
a lot of these people, though, the
I'm not
fucking
getting canceled. I'm being censored
the
because that's what
people
it is.
the people who were previously like, oh, American comics, they're too political, that's why they're bad. A lot of those people, like, see, they have stuff like that in manga where hot women get ripped apart because it's all about equality. They don't care about the politics of it. It's like, no, actually, they do, specifically because it's wrong. That's why hot, big titted bitches getting ripped apart in Gantz are not because they're equal, but because it's wrong. Because it's wrong, it's more fun to see. It's what we were saying. It's the fucking. Um, it's that sort of opposite. I don't know if there's a rule or law or formula about it named yet. We could name it after ourselves, of course. Sort of like the Lely formula.
Probably
Um,
be the smart move.
but the Lely formula is actually something specific. It's about the Lely formula was if people are autistically screeching that something is good, then it's bad, and if people are autistically screeching that something is bad, then it's good, which is kind of related to this. But
And the more fucking fervent they are about it, the more wrong
specifically
they are.
autistically screeching, which most people don't even know what that means anymore. People think that if your voice even goes up like one octave or fucking if you talk too fast or if you have too much to say that it's autism, when in fact autism is
No
having
one,
too
yeah,
little to say,
yeah, fucking no one knows what autism is anymore.
except for us, of course.
I certainly know.
Yeah, we
I
know,
know
but
all.
then again, we know why manga is better, but also sells better, which usually are two different things. Um, and they kind of are. Like, again, Attack on Titan, not a very good comic, not a very good anime, but they were
Well,
popular.
nothing special anyway.
Yeah, no, they sort of have it sort of has a unique premise. Gantz did too. That's usually what the popular animus are, though, is kind of high concept thing. It's like, oh, it's post apocalypse. They're
It's
stuck
an
in a walled
artist.
city.
It's somebody who can draw, who has it's like a once in a lifetime actually good idea for themselves
Yeah, sort of
because they're not going to hire a writer.
like high
That's for damn
concept
sure.
in America is like Breaking Bad, where chemistry teacher becomes a meth dealer. In Gantz, it's people who die get teleported to an apartment room where they're told to hunt alien monsters with
I mean,
weird weapons and
it's
suits.
more fundamental than that. But the point
Yeah,
is that it's fucking, you know,
but that's part of why these mangers become popular is because they have that high concept pitch that's at least interesting, even if they are either not good entirely or if they have good aspects to them but maybe fizzle out at the end like Gantz did. Um, And in a way, One Punch Man is, again, great start, but I completely tuned out of it because it stopped being funny. It stopped having jokes in it, really. Not entirely, but it used to be several jokes per issue or one really big good one per issue for like the first 20 issues or chapters or whatever. And then after the giant alien ship that, he fights and he actually has to resort to regular punches to fucking to win the day. After that, the amount of comedy and jokes dropped way off. Uh, um, and then it became about like the hero killer and that kind of stuff. And none of that is comedic, really. It has great action and great art.
Like in particular, the big failing or the big sin of it, essentially is just that it's trying to go on and on. It's trying to drag shit out so it
Yeah.
can be like the next One Piece.
Yeah, that's the thing is that One Punch Man would have been great if it was only like three volumes or something, which is a shame because a comic that great you don't want it to only be three volumes. But if it ends before it gets tired or before they run out of jokes or something, and the thing is, I still have huge respect for the artist and the writer for one, and I don't really know the Bing Bong names, but even for comics, but like Berserk is having the exact same problem where it hasn't fizzled out, but it got stuck in a huge rut for years where they're still on the boat. They finally got off the boat, and now it's like one or two chapters per year because people are saying, oh, because the guy making it is addicted to playing Idol Maker, but it most
Idol
likely it's
Master.
because he doesn't really he's like stuck in a rut, writer's block, or he knows the only thing left to do is for Guts to fight Griffithsu, and just getting to that is gonna fucking end. Like you can't get to that too soon because then it's like a disappointing climax. But at this point, it doesn't seem like it could be anything but disappointing, and I think the guy just wants to make other comics now, and that's really a shame. So again, manga has its own problems, but American comics, of course, have far worse problems where they don't. It's not just that other people come on and Superman's written by different one or two different people every year. It's that there's not really any story left to tell, and they can't end, and there's nothing in it to really satisfy the end. You're not going to see Superman accidentally punch a woman and have. It's. I think that's also another reason why Invincible became such a hit is because it just had
Mhm.
anything more than what Cape Shit usually has. It wasn't even that good. Um, it had a good ending, like the series had a. I didn't read the comic, but
Well,
the
it's just the
series had
first
a good
season
ending.
so
But
far, yeah.
the first like 5 or 6 episodes are pretty average and almost suck, but they have some good stuff to them. I mean, if it wasn't for the first episode, the ending of that, no spoilers on that, I guess. But if it wasn't for the ending of the first episode, I would have tuned out entirely. I wouldn't have given a shit. Um, but that's the thing is that I kind of appreciate Invincible, by the way, for what, and we said this in another video that's only on our subscribe star for the actual cool people. But I kind of appreciate Invincible for showing the modern American viewpoint of superheroes, which is creepy alien harbors the doom of us all, which is sort of like the viewpoint from Kick Ass and fucking I
Man of
forgot.
Steel.
There's some other stuff that we mentioned. The Boys was another example of
It's
seeing
sort of
superheroes as corrupt inherently.
it's deconstructionist without being a deconstruction.
But at the same time, everything's so deconstructionist that it's kind of played out. But I kind of appreciate that, like, if you wanted to see how Americans actually see superheroes, aside from the fake opinion, people who pretend to have opinions about shit but don't actually have any opinions, who they say shit like Captain America means so much to people, and it's like, no, he actually doesn't mean anything, even to people who think that he means stuff to people. um, Captain America is a logo. He's a corporate brand, and it's unfortunate. But if you really wanted a Captain America that represented something, you would have to make it not Captain America, because Captain America is too attached and associated with a corporation, a giant corporation that has to do whatever it can to please as many people as humanly possible. It has to be as broad as possible. And then if you make your own version, it's going to be so specific to your viewpoints that it would be like, again, like Lone Star. It was like, let's take, this fucking dope wanted to take Captain America and be like, we're going to get rid of this stupid politics in Captain America, and then it put in a bunch of stupid politics. But it was stupid politics from the viewpoint of the person making it, at least.
I mean, the key point there is just, it was like, I want to make a Captain America comic, but they won't let me, so I'm just going to literally steal the entire concept, just the appearance, and as much as I can. And it's like, well, you didn't really have any ideas for a story then.
Yeah, and it
you don't actually have a storytelling idea. You just wanted to be a part of the marketing blitz.
Yeah, you wanted to create a sort of a marketing brand about what you think Captain America should be. But like,
you want to, I mean, these people are even admitting, it's like, we want toy lines and underwear with our fucking character's face on them.
They want their own corporate IP. They want to basically make their own version of Marvel or DC, which means they don't really care about telling the story. And in fact, you could tell by their writing ability. Like, Mike S. Miller's writing was fucking dog shit, piss poor, awful.
Above and beyond everything else, the most important thing is you can just see it. It just comes through clear as day that they have no desire. There's no love for what they make.
Yeah.
And because first off, it's boring, and secondly, when it's not boring, it's actually kind of annoying.
And they want to turn it into a toy line in video games instead of turning it into a comic book. People are making comic books. They don't want to actually turn it into a comic book. They don't want to make comics. They want to make a brand. They want to make a fucking logo. They want to make a merchandising, marketing fucking piece of IP. And that's the thing. That's the real problem with American comics right there. And we've been saying this for years. We've been saying this, like, going back at least a decade.
People will be copying us later eventually anyway, at some point. But you'll hear from them, but you heard it from us first.
Yeah, we've been saying this first. This is just another video. We're not doing this video to state this. We're just doing this video to restate it and point out how everyone else's opinions, like our fucking... our statements about this have actually secretly bled into the public consciousness through people who kind of don't want to admit that they were following us or watching us, because that's a whole other topic, though. That's, behind the scenes is very well known. But if anyone who doubts it, it's because you haven't seen behind the scenes. You don't know what's actually happening in private regarding how, like, some of the biggest people in comics have been watching our videos for years, which I didn't believe until they actually came out and said it. And other people have, like, said it in anger and been like, "Oh, I can't believe those guys are making this. Can't believe Ethan Van Sciver's talking about how much he likes shitty webcomics and he's making references to their jokes and stuff. It's just complete bullshit." Just that shit. People are completely in the dark about American comics to every extent, including why they're bad, but also why manga's better, why manga sells more. Those are two different things, though, why manga's better and why it sells more. Because manga still has a lot of problems, never before shown better than recently, with the whole stuff with Attack on Titan kind of falling apart. But we were the first people to be honest about that, and now you're going to start seeing other people have that opinion too, the same way you have seen everyone else who's talking about, like, American comics don't sell nearly as well as manga because of this, and this. All of those are opinions that nobody had said before until us. And I don't like admitting that, because it sounds really egotistical and something that can't even be quantified. But other people have fucking pointed that out to us. It wasn't us who came up and we're not here to do this video. We're like, we've said it all first. Other people came to us and said, wow, you guys completely said this first. Now everyone else is saying it. And it's bizarre being that. Believe me, I don't want to believe it. I personally don't even want to believe it. But it is true. But that's why, like, in response to this, in fact, I thought it was kind of funny how I made this comment about how we have done videos about this. And again, Tim Lim here says this, and I think, oh yeah, somebody else, this guy Ferds says the same thing. Both of them, many people, creators and viewers agree, should have listened to Shitty Web Comics.